Looking at expanded notations, we're going to look at this question which says that we should write the given numbers. In this case, we're given 20,000, and on the other hand, we have 25,700 in expanded notation. In here, we're going to look at what this means. We're going to look at how we are going to build it given these following questions involving large numbers, not small numbers. Looking at skills to remember, the first skill to address is how to position digits in a number based on what? Their place value. And this positioning involves the following. When you're given a number like this, you need to remember that going from right to left, we are increasing in place value where our 9. Remember that after 9 is a decimal point, because this here is a whole number. We can now address this as, yes, this is our ones, and you can realize that, yes, if it is our ones, moving from it to what? The powers of 10, we see that these ones represent what? 10 to the power of 0. And then the next one, which comes before your 9, is 8, and this represents our tens, and the power of 10 for 8 is going to be expressed 10 to the power of 1. And this continues going from right to left where our powers increases, and for 7 it is in the position of 10 to the power of 2. 6 is 10 to the power of 3, which is the thousands, and then the 10 thousands is for 5, which is represented as 10 to the power of 4, and so on and so forth. And so this is something to keep in mind in terms of making that connection between what? Our place values and the powers of 10. And once you're able to realize this, then we can move on to the next step, which is what? How are we going to address expanded form, understanding place values and powers of 10. When addressing expanded notation, we need to remember that given a number and you're asked to determine the expanded notation, this consists of first remembering that we need to represent the sum, which means addition, of the following. Next point, which is the product or multiplication. And so the product or multiplication of the digits that are in the number, and this is going to be by the what? Final step. And the final step is the place value or the power of 10, that digit is positioned in the number. And so these are the three things to remember when it comes to showing expanded notation. Or you can go from what? A multiples of 10, and these multiples of 10 are usually in terms of how many tens are you multiplying by itself. And that leads us to the final step, which is transforming it to powers of 10. So in here, we're going to look at an example based on the given question, which is shown right here. And what I want you to do is pause this video, try these questions, and applying these steps here to these questions that are shown right here. And so once you're done, you can press play and let's see the solution to these questions. Now, given this question, which says that given the number 20,000, transform it to expanded notation. we have our template that we're going to apply to this question in order for we to develop our result, which looks like our template that is set up right here. And so once we begin, we realize that yes, 20,000, as you know, based on what I said, it means that we can indeed transform this to expand notation, but it will look like something that you're familiar with, which is called scientific notation. And what we realize is that yes, when you're moving from right to left, we have all of them to be zeros, and we have just our first non-zero digit number is indeed 2. And therefore, since 2 has the highest place value, going from right to left, we know that our 0 is positioned as our ones, our next 0 is tens, and next is hundreds, this is the thousands, and this here is the 10,000s. And therefore, we are going to show digit, which we have to be 2. We're going to write our 2 first. We are going to multiply it by the place value, which is in this case 10,000s. And so we're going to write times our place value, which is 10,000s. We're going to write it but in terms of the multiples of 10, which is shown as 1 0 0 0 0. And yes, indeed, there is no other non-zero digit that is after 2, and this means that you are going to have this only as your intermediate answer. And our final answer, which means you are now going from multiples of 10 to now powers of 10, is you realize that we have our 10,000 to be the same thing as writing it in this form, where we have 100 times 100. And if we break 100 down into 2 factors that are the same, we have 10 times 10, and same as well for our 100, which is 10 times 10. Therefore, we have 10 10 10 10 to be the same, and this is going to be shown as these 2 times, which we're going to bring down, and we have 2 times, we have 10 times 10 times, which I'm going to put here, 10 times 10, which means that we have 10 to be a repeating multiplication, and the repeating multiplication tells us that 10 indeed is the base, which we're going to keep right, and then the exponent is going to be how many tens are you multiplying, and the tens are 1 2 3 4, and so our exponent is going to be 4. And this here is our final answer, that is the expanded form, or we'll call it the scientific notation for 20,000. Now this here only works when you just have only one non-zero digit that is present in your large number. Other than that, any other scenario that has more than one non-zero digit for your large number, you're going to have the sum to be included in your expanded notation. And this is where the second question comes into play. Now for the next question, where you're given 25,700 and you're asked to transform this to expanded notation, we realize that from our previous example, we have to first note the place values of each digit moving from right to left, which looks like this. And now that you're done listing them out, you're going to move to the next step, which is you're going to list the digits. And remember that as you move from left to right, we're going to put a plus sign between each digit and leave a space between the number, which is the digits, and the addition sign. And this is how it looks like. And so we have 2, remember, plus we have 5, and we have plus the next digit is 7, and there is no other number that are non-zeros that is after 7, so we end right there. If there are non-zero digits after 7, either on the tens or in place of the ones, then you put and include, or you include that number right below here after the plus sign. And so once we have this, we are going to move on to the next step, which is to now place the product of the digit which we have here by the place value, which is the multiples of 10, right next to the digits. And this is how it looks like. For 2, we have 10,000s, and so we are going to write times what? Times 10,000. And next here is we have our 5, which is under the thousands, and we're going to write it as what? For here, 5 times 1,000. And finally is for our 7, which is under hundreds. We're going to put times 100 next to our 7. And once we have accomplished this, we are going to move on to our final step, which is to transform our multiples of 10s, which are how many 10s are multiplied together to give you this number, and that number. We're going to transform them to power form, which are in this case a base, which is 10, and its exponent. And so our final step, which is going to be shown right here, is what? We have 2, which is this 2 right here, times what? We know that we have 10,000s, and we have how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that means that we have our 10 to be the base, and we have our 4 to be the exponent, because we are multiplying 4 10s together to give what? 10,000. And then our next step is to put our addition sign, and once we put down our addition sign, the next is put your 5 times what? We're going to multiply our 5 by 1,000, but in this case we're going to have our base to be what? 10, and the exponent will be how many 10s? We have 1, 2, 3 zeros, which means we have 3 to be the exponent, and therefore we are going to multiply 3 10s together to give 1,000. And so our final step, which is the 7, is we're going to introduce our plus sign, and then we're going to write down 7, and finally is multiplied by what? 100. But in this case we're going to write it in terms of the power of 10, and so this here means that we have our 10 as the base, and finally our exponent is going to be 1, 2, which means we are having 2 10s that we are multiplying together to give us 100. And so this here is our final answer, which means that we are able to successfully transform our number to expanded notation. I hope you found this really informative. You can try other questions, like for example, I might ask you to give me the expanded form for this large number where we have 87043 and another one 2007531, and let's see what you got right there. All the same, Thanks for following me through this. Truly appreciate it. Hit the comment down below. Let me hear your thoughts about this particular example and the one that we saw before, and see you all on the next one. Stay smart as always and believe in yourselves.